All right, everyone, we are live. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Relentless Patriots. I'm your host, Relentless Patriot Frank. We're just going to be adding in some people here from Facebook. Let's see if we can get this going here. All right, guys, welcome. We are getting the extra live video feeds going. Tonight, we're going to be talking about General Patton. And where are the General Pattons of today? We are missing a lot of patriotism in this country, a lot of fight. And I chose General Patton tonight because he's a very prominent and important figure in American history. And almost to the point where you could actually say, could he be the next George Washington? Could he be the person that a lot of us should look up to in modern times? We already have our forefathers. We have our heroes in a lot of our battles that our forefathers have sacrificed so much so that way we may have a nation. But in terms of we the people, in terms of World War I and World War II, and the heroes that left behind a legacy is what we all should be focusing on, because the more we can do that, folks, the more we can get in touch with our patriotism and realize what it truly means to be an American today. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of historical facts about General Patton. He's fought in both World War I and World War II, along with several in-between battles, and he led different battles with cavalry troops against Mexican forces. He was also first assigned to the U.S. Army Tank Corps. And it's pretty cool to know the history about Patton because he was a die-hard American. He was born November 11th, 1885, believe it or not. And unfortunately, he passed away too soon, December 21st, 1945, from a terrible car accident late at night. And he was one of the few generals that was actually buried in Luxembourg. Luxembourg American Cemetery. He's the only four-star general at an American Battle Monuments Commission cemetery, and arguably one of the most famous. Couple of fun facts here. He commanded the 7th Army in the Mediterranean theater of World War II. Then the 3rd Army in France and Germany after the Allied invasion of Normandy in 1944, which is pretty cool. If you really think about all the things that he accomplished in a short period of time, and he experienced 2 world wars and came out alive. The man was one tough son of a gun. You know what I mean? So another fun fact about General MacArthur. He and General Patton actually were good friends. And they met one time in World War I, and it was on the battlefield. That was the only time they were able to kind of bond together. General Patton also has some crazy controversies, which is, in my opinion, hey, when you're in the middle of battle, when you're in the middle of war, a lot of bad things happen, right? One time he actually hit a soldier who was in the med bay, and this one soldier was actually defying orders of General Patton. And General Patton's like, come on, man, wake up. You're an American. Get back out there and fight. I mean, this is how diehard General Patton was. And his life was cut short because he got into a car accident in 1945, right before leaving Europe. And he was paralyzed from the neck down and spent 12 days in the hospital. And his wife was present when he died. But this guy's a hero. He quoted the term, lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. And I think a lot of us today are failing to realize what actually needs to be done in today's society. See, we have to try to lead by example. And if we're not leading by example, then there's not going to be any examples left for anybody to follow. Everyone's like, oh, we should follow Trump. We should, you know, you know, follow his testimonies in his life and do our best to support our president, this and that. But here's the thing. There's a lot of things that a lot of people, do, including myself, do not agree with. I mean, we all voted for him. We all love the fact that he is, a president for we the people. But at the same time, what's currently happening in the world today is very dangerous. And the fact of the matter is, we don't have any more General Pattons in the world now, do we? To kind of fill in that void and stand up for what's right. I mean, unfortunately, today, we have people that like to hide behind others, and they like to have others do their fighting for them. So I know usually I start with a constitutional reading. So tonight's reading is going to be from Thomas Paine in the Common Sense Papers. And the title of this little excerpt here is called Of the Present Ability of America with Some Miscellaneous Reflections. I have never met with a man, either in England or America, who hath not confessed his opinion, that a separation between the countries would take place one time or another. And there is no instance in which we have shown less judgment. Then, in an endeavoring to describe what we call the ripeness or fitness of the continent for independence, as all men allow the measure, and vary only in their opinion of the time, let us, in order to remove mistakes, take a general survey of things, and endeavor, if possible, to find out the very time. But we need not go far. The inquiry ceases at once, for the time hath found us. The general concurrence, the glorious union of all things prove the fact. It is not in numbers, but in unity, that our great strength lies, yet our present numbers are sufficient to repel the force of all the world. The continent hath at this time the largest body of armed and disciplined men of any power under heaven, and is just arrived at the pitch of strength in which no single colony is able to support itself, and the whole, who united can accomplish the matter, and either more or less than this might be fatal in its effects. Our land force is already sufficient as to naval affairs. We cannot be insensible that Britain would ever suffer an American man of war to be built while the continent remained in her hands. We should be no forwarder in 100 years hence in that branch than we are now. But the truth is, we should be less so, because the timber of the country is every day diminishing, and that which will remain at last will be far off and difficult to procure. Were the continent crowded with inhabitants, her sufferings under the present circumstances would be intolerable. The more seaport towns we had, the more we should have both to defend and to lose. Debts we have none, and whatever we may contract on this account will serve as a glorious memento of our virtue. Amazing. Thomas Paine, one of the most diehard patriots out there. And we're going back, folks. We're going back to a time where you had a whole bunch of General Pattons running around. You had a whole bunch of diehard people that were able to stand in the face of tyrants and educate others. And they were also, a lot of them were one with God. Thomas Paine at first was an atheist, but learned about how to love God and Christianity later from Thomas Jefferson. So, the most important thing that I can tell you guys is in America today, we are missing those General Pattons. We are missing the message of what our forefathers were trying to tell us. Even Trump. If Trump, I haven't heard anything from Trump when it comes to our forefathers. When was the last time he quoted anyone? Can any of you guys tell me that? Because I'm really not sure in terms of how well Trump can handle this next battle. Whether it's Israel, whether it's Palestine, whether it's handling the deep state cronies that are constantly taking our tax dollars and wrongfully spending them. See, the point of the matter is this, folks, that we the people are in dire straits. And the reason why, again, I bring up General Patton is because General Patton had the ability to fight no matter what the odds were. He had the ability, he had the fortitude to get things done. And it didn't really apologize for it. And that's what we really need to be thinking about more so and more so as the next 4 years progress for Trump. We're going to be put through a lot more tests than what anybody has ever seen before. Because remember, we have Agenda 2030 that's still in effect. We have depopulation that's still in effect. We have a whole bunch of diehard Americans that have been bamboozled and brainwashed and silenced. And we have to reawaken those same people. A lot of people went back to sleep because Trump's now in office, and now there's no reason to do anything. There's no reason to fight. There's plenty of reasons to fight. And I think, a lot of people out there really need to realize that we are in big trouble. We are in big trouble. The microchip is still in play. Should you trust Elon Musk? That I leave up to you. The evidence has already presented itself as such. So if you decide that Elon Musk is some type of a good person simply because he wants to figure out or is hired by Trump to look into all the different corrupt and scandalous, tax dollars that were wrongfully used in all these different globalist corporations, and then it's going to be refunneled back into those same corporations. But, they're supposed to be for us, and they're supposed to be for research, and they're supposed to be to figure out, more of what the microchips are going to be like and who's going to be using the microchips and everything else. It's a very dangerous time. It's a very dangerous time. And I'm just going to move on here and talk a little bit more about the re-inhabited republic that was actually almost installed. We almost won back in 2010 with interim President Timothy Turner. Now, if you guys don't know who Timothy Turner is, he was the one who made the Declaration of Independence originally way before Trump. He was the one who got every single state almost together to the point where we could actually get rid of the de facto corporation of America. And then Obama and his cronies arrested him, and he spent some time in jail. And recently he's gotten out, or a couple years back now. And now we have another interim president, Geiger, who is leading the way right now and is temporarily holding position for Tim. And a lot of us have decided to be part of this new republic. I'm going to ask the same of all of you tonight to try to be part of that republic, that same republic that is supposed to be for we the people. Because the most important thing that I can tell you guys about we the people is that we really need to start hunkering down on constitutional law and values. And if we don't get on the same page here, if we don't stand for our rights, then we're not going to have any. We're not going to have any. We the people are the last resort, are the last defense before America falls. And if we can't get with the program, if we can't get all these different General Pattons together, then, my friends, we are in deep trouble. And I want you guys to remember that tonight. So I'm going to read to you the eight steps to re-inhabiting our republic. And Denise, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see your comment. Did you miss the clip of General Patton at one of Trump's rallies? It was a few years back. Yep. Trump has given praise to General Patton, believe it or not. And he's actually, it's alleged that he's related to Patton, that he's Patton's son, where Patton actually had another child in the meantime. But I don't know how well or how accurate that is. Well, what I can tell you about it is I am not surprised, because if you take a look at his bloodline, he is slightly related to the Kennedys. He's a long distant cousin of the Kennedys. Remember, a lot of the royalty out there and wealthy families, they're all going to have a first cousin, a second cousin, a third cousin, and they're all linked together. You take the majority of the United States presidents, for example, they're all like 13th or 14th cousins with the royal family. Not sure if some of you guys knew that out there. But anyway, I don't want to deflect too much about what our plan is here for re-inhabiting the republic. So, step number one, the republic will be the only, and I quote this, lawful civil authority. The only lawful civil authority. So all these de facto fraudulent statutes and codes should be thrown out the window immediately. And this includes the IRS, the FBI, the CIA, all these de facto corporate three-letter strongholds that our government has currently put on us as a hex. All that should be denied whenever our constitutional principles and values and our morals are violated. The Bible should be one of the first things that any person, especially when it comes to law, should try to go by, along with our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and the powers that be. No statute, no code can make a judgment on who is exactly guilty or not. Because if the problem with statutes and codes is they're applying a broad brush across everybody. So let's just say you have 5 to 10 people walking down the street, and they all commit the same crime, right? They all jaywalked. They all got the same ticket. All right, but let's just say for a second that each individualized person, some jaywalked and some didn't. And it depends on what the cop saw. And then they go into court and they try to fight that same ticket, but nope. You can't fight it. Once the traffic cam gets you and they can fabricate a story out of it, let's just say some people didn't even cross the street. If you are grouped up with those other people, your rights have been violated. And in general, traffic tickets, jaywalking tickets, all these different tickets, they're a violation of your Fourth Amendment. You should have the ability to travel without being infringed upon. Now, am I saying speed through a whole bunch of red lights and get into a car accident? No. But when it comes to judgment and ruling, what they've done is they've taken everything too far to the point of a complete totalitarian and militarized nanny state. A big brother watching you 24/7 with all these cameras. And I remember a while back when they started to put all those different cameras on all the traffic lights all over the place. And now even in Rockland County, they're adding $100,000 more of these different license plate cameras. And they claim it's to catch illegal immigrants. Now, you can say what you want about, it's a double-edged sword. We need cameras to catch the bad guys. But let me ask you this. How many bad guys actually have been caught with those cameras versus how many people have gotten illegal, fraudulent tickets in the mail because they went a couple miles over the speed limit? Okay, or they didn't slow down enough for a red light, whatever the case is. How many more people have gotten fraudulent tickets because of these cameras and have the rights and private property and privacy Okay, violated as well. So that's one here. You need to have lawful civil authority to denounce these judges, to denounce some of these laws, because I've never seen a book like, you take the Constitution book, the corporate statute laws and codes, they go from the floor to the ceiling and then some. Why do we need so many statutes, codes, and laws if we're supposed to be a free people? I'm just saying. Okay, now step number 2. Please read the Mayflower Compact of 1620. And the Mayflower Compact gave us all sovereignty back then. And the correct word that we need instead of pilgrims are separatists. Pilgrims were later described as pilgrims by the British class and the Pilgrim Society that was formed in the 1900s. And what the crazy part about all these terminologies that we use, we all grew up calling them pilgrims. But if you take a look at the word pilgrim, what does that mean exactly? When you think about someone taking a pilgrimage somewhere, they're eventually going to return. And that's exactly what Britain labeled them as, because they were like, well, eventually these people will come back to us, because they are controlled by us. They are enslaved by us, right? So if you think about pilgrimage, these separatists that wanted to worship Christianity different than what the crazy royal King James at the time wanted for them and was demanding them to be like, you can understand where they got the word pilgrim from. They weren't really making a holy pilgrimage. They were fleeing tyranny. Number 3, law of nations. What is the law of nations? Have any of you ever heard of the law of nations before? The law of nations is a decree in which you have the right to be a sovereign person around the world. Not sure if you knew that. If you take a good look at the Magna Carta, that actually helped establish the law for all the nations around the world, in which it made everybody have the same rights, from king to peasant, etc. And if you take a look at the law of nations, it was actually also called the Principles of Natural Law, and it was written in 1758, which is very interesting. It's an international law, and it granted us sovereignty, and also it described legal rules pertaining generally to foreigners when specific foreign rules were unknown or in conflict. You take a look at the illegal immigrants today, for example. They have violated those laws. They came in here illegally. We have the right to be sovereign, and we also have the right to protect our nation because of that. And the law of nations grants us that. Okay, and besides, it's also a construct. It's a fundamental law in general that establishes its governing principles and structure. Okay, and we're also talking about the codified structure here is the Constitution. We're allowed to enforce the Constitution because if you take a look in the Constitution, there's also clauses in which if a foreigner violates our Constitution and comes in here illegally, yes, even back then, they had foreign-based accountability. So if someone were to sneak in here and they were caught, they were sent back, or they were actually hung or put in prison, depending on the crime here. So it's very interesting that we're using all these, what an ignorant liberal would say, it's just an old piece of paper. It's an old piece of parchment. Well, guess what? It's the rules and law of the land. The Constitution guarantees us sovereignty and protection. And yet every single one of these usurped, de facto fraudulent politricians, have used and abused the Constitution and have torn each page out and used it as their personal toilet paper. Now, if you're not okay with that, which you shouldn't be, then everyone should be, ready to roll at this point and have those gallows built because they all committed treason. But anyway, step number 4, Declaration of Independence. Are you surprised it's actually in how we're going to restore or re-inhabit our republic? No. It's here. We use the Declaration of Independence to be sovereign and free from England's reign. And we should continue to use that same document. And a lot of you guys know back in 2020 that Trump actually wrote the Re-Declaration of Independence, seceding us from the Corporation of America. Now, I don't know why he's still catering to these people. I don't know why he's doing their bidding. I don't know why he's, saying it's okay to go into Gaza and rebuild Gaza and mess around with foreign affairs. That's all unconstitutional and against all our forefathers' warnings. You take a look at Washington and the farewell address, for example. That's pretty bad. He told and warned John Adams not to get involved with the foreign affairs of Europe. Otherwise, you'd forever be a slave to them. And we've been a slave more to Israel than any other country since World War II. We do all their bidding, especially when it comes to AIPAC. We have not labeled them as a foreign lobby group still to this day. And the fact of the matter is that the majority of our Congress has a dual citizenship. And they all get kickbacks because Israel doesn't want anyone talking badly or too brashly about them. I just find it funny that we need to, once again, use the Declaration of Independence in a different way so that way we all can be free here. We got to remember that. Step number 5. Are you familiar with the Northwest Ordinance of 1787? If you're not, I highly recommend you read up on it because the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 lines up directly with the Articles of Confederation. And the Northwest Ordinance is a very important piece of documentation because that also gave us sovereignty over our territory. And it operated actually under the Articles of Confederation. They go hand in hand. And the thing is, we use that as our pre-framing context to add on additional colonies later on, or states rather, into our union. And it gave us a Bill of Rights in a way that protected our religious freedom. Okay, and also gave us the right to habeas corpus, the benefit of trial by jury, and other individual rights. And in addition, it encouraged education and forbade slavery. Step number 6, the Constitution for the United States. Well, that's your Bill of Rights. Number 7, the Atlantic Charter. This, in a way, prevented certain devious trade deals from happening. Yes, even back then, we had people come in and try to fool us with their wrongful taxation on imports and exports. If you think about today and how we're still kind of taking a knee to China, and Trump's trying to reverse that, clearly, it was the same thing back then. Whoever came in here and tried to import and export wrongfully and overcharge us or overtax us in a way, so that way we can get their goods. Well, that's what the Atlantic Charter was. Also, it gave us the right to protect our sea borders. and also gave us the right to be a country. Number 8, the proclamation of claim and interest at the Republic for the USA. The proclamation is all right, again, to be sovereign. Notice that that word has come up over and over and over again. We're sovereign citizens under God. We have inalienable, unquestionable, non-removable. Okay, they shall not be infringed whatsoever. Rights endowed to us by our Creator. Okay, so a couple other things here. What can we do tactically? If we're going to be the new General Pattons of this generation, and for future generations, how can we get more people to be more patriotic? Is it more rallies that we need to do? Right? Is it more of, well, do we need to start banding together more and make coalitions like I had recommended? What else needs to be done for we the people? Can any of you guys out there give some recommendations? Because in my opinion, time is wearing thin. There's not a lot of time left in terms of decision making for us. A lot of decisions are being made by our government that I'm sure a lot of you are not happy with. Neither am I. We're getting involved with more war. I don't see how that's America first. Although, maybe Trump has a trick up his sleeve. But let's go into some information here about Trump and Larry Fink. Trump and Larry Fink are actually best friends. They've done business together. You know what I mean? They were involved together. And if you take a look at the Panama Canal, yes, does Trump want to re-inhabit that? Yes. But if you take a look at the corporations that are going to be buying the Panama Canal, it's all Larry Fink's corporations. So there's a lot of things that I think people should be paying attention to, and who is buying what and doing with whatever they're buying. What is their premise for doing so? What is their reasoning for doing so? Why are we letting Larry Fink and BlackRock buy every little thing? You take a look at the U.S. aid, for example. A lot of funding was removed from all these different things that we were wasting our money on for decades. Transgender studies in India. Experimentations on mice. Take a look at the wrongful spending even in Gaza. $50 million in alleged condoms and protection for what? We're wasting money when, meanwhile, right down the street here, we can't fill in some potholes. Make sense to me. $14.9 billion for related projects when it comes to Israel. $2.2 billion for Jewish-related products. $580 million for Tel Aviv University. $72.9 million for Holocaust-linked memorials and museums. $11.2 million on chapels, Jewish chapels in West Point, which is down the way from here. Why are these things not being canceled out of the wrongful spending? Is it because Israel is our ally, our greatest ally? They've been blood-sucking us dry for decades. And how no one's questioning the fact that they've done a lot of wrong things. And again, I hate to sound anti-Semitic, but this is not what it's about. It's about anti-corruption. It's about saving our sovereignty here and standing up for what's right. So at the end of the day, folks, I want you to think about that and the things that I've read on tonight. And remember something, that if General Patton were alive today, would he want to do the right thing? You bet. You bet he would. You know, I mean, he might even tell us, oh, go, you know, he fought in World War II. He'd tell us to go down to Israel and fight and protect them, you know. But in my opinion, we need a different type of Patton today. We need a Patton for we the people. We need a diehard American or Americans, keyword cans, can do what our forefathers did, what the patriots of the past did. Because that's what we the people is. That's who we are. We know our history. We know how to express our rights. And we don't back down from Democrats, tyrants, rhinos, communists, you name it. So I want you guys to think about that. And let's come together a little bit more here on this Relentless Patriot Network. I want to give a big shout out to a lot of our newest members too. Thank you guys very much for joining. And some of you guys have even bought merchandise on our website. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I think that the majority of what you're going to come to find on this network is way beyond what you would even expect. We have a lot of independent thinking, diehard patriots. So let's continue this fight. May God bless this country. May God lead the way for Trump. And may God lead the way for our re-inhabited republic. So until next time, folks, have a great night. Stay relentless.